welcome to Revive Ministry Podcast. It's October 2025, and every single year we've been doing this theme. It's okay to fall. It's okay to fall embraces the unavoidable condition that we all face, the uncertainty. And actually, this year I was really stuck on this question: am I worth the time to improve? A lot of us may be facing whatever we're facing. It's okay to fall actually embraces the fact that imperfections doesn't mean that we are helpless. Today, we have a returning guest. Her name is Christine Samuel. Thank you so much for coming on, just sharing your insight and just having a conversation about something a lot of times gets overlooked. We are busy. We don't have time to give ourselves, I guess, the grace or even the understanding that some of these things cannot be. Sometimes it just takes, you can't skip steps, especially when it comes to ourselves and how we improve and how we put ourselves on and set up boundaries that may be more healthier moving forward. But again, thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me again, Rob.
Yeah. I'll put a disclaimer and I'll just get right into it. I just like just having I use a lot of times quotes just because it sparks the conversation, but it gives us more honest, maybe different perspective of the same topic. But disclaimer is, if you're in the States, 988 is a suicide crisis lifeline. Wherever you are in the world, I do encourage you to find that the people you trust, the people, your coworkers, maybe people you go to church or go to a mosque or go to, a temple or wherever you go. I just encourage you to find someone to tell them that you're not doing okay. Tell them that you may need a little bit of help, and with that said, I'll just get right to it. Mark Twain was something I read a lot when I was a kid, growing up in grade school, and one of his quotes I thought was interesting is the reward for conformity is that everyone likes you but yourself. So if we are, I still say this, especially working in the mental health field, is don't be the mayor of nothing. I took that from a comedian. No shame in that, but I do feel sometimes we are people pleasers. We constantly think about how it may look from their vantage point, but when we're really facing something, whether it's mental health, physical, maybe something that you're experiencing at any given moment, the question really becomes, am I allowed the time to get better? Am I allowed the steps that may get me where I need to be? What comes to mind when you see this quote, Christy?
Well, I think we are so conditioned. So
Yeah.
I just want to talk a little bit more about, the fall and losing ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we want to feel validate that we're worthy, and we are conditioned by the society to feel unworthy. Therefore, we look outside to get that validation, and therefore we look for perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to bring this up because it's not our fault. It's not our weakness to seek validation, to want to be acknowledged and loved, because everyone feels that way. And to understand that how society shape us to feel what we feel, not blaming.
Yeah.
To understand there also the interconnection between the systems and ourselves, that we can see this work of making ourselves worthy is also the work that we can do within ourselves that can help others to feel worthy. So for me, the work of getting up fall is not just responsibility for ourselves, but as we heal also the collective. So it's important work.
I believe, I totally agree, and it's complex, like you said. It's not just we are we are not islands. That old expressions. We are people that need to connect, and I feel it's sad because we have so many ways to connect right now, but we don't
Yeah.
effectively. On the other side of it is that cultural impacts. There's different cultural settings that are different that may impact how we feel if we're allowed to, you know, um, there's a sense of responsibility. So that's not really bad either. I'm half Korean, so like Korean culture is understandably very age centric. So doesn't matter, but there's also a lot of roots to that of especially the Korean War and prior, and there's always this kind of struggle when systems are not working as well as they used to. Okay, it's not trying to be disrespectful for those, because I think I've learned a lot. My mom is the wisest person I know, and I love her dearly, but at the same time there's always this barrier of the should have statements, the should have statements that kind of propagate from being conditioned. Like you said, we want, I should be somewhere else. I should be doing better. And I do feel that there's a lot of pressure. I would say maybe it's because we see it more, maybe because we're more distracted more, but there's a lot of pressure to be enough, whatever that looks like. And I would say I feel for the young people coming out of high school trying to figure themselves out into college. It's very different dynamic than when I was going through that. So any thoughts?
Yeah, I think with the development of social media, we have a lot to compare, right? Like
Yeah.
you see so many different, in the past, probably like you and I, where we see friends within, our circle in person, right?
Yeah.
Now you can see so many people from that you don't know, but you can compare yourself. There's so many different examples that is better than you.
Yeah.
And I think about the way our brain work, our headspace, our analytical way of seeing things, we always compare, right? Our brain actually works in, to compare. Like, is it better, less, worse, good, bad? It's comparing. That's just our habit of our cognitions. So in a way, yeah, you're right. There's more challenge to feel better, like, and also because of the conditions of competition is the best way of making people move. And the problem with that is it creates also this fear, survival fear, right? Scarcity, where like, okay, I need to compete, otherwise I'm gonna be left behind. So I think the most important thing in that, knowing the tendency of how our brain work and how that deep down, I think in every human being that has been raised, as a baby and raised in the societies, there's always feel we're not enough. So in a way, accepting that feeling, not trying to push it down or to solve it, by doing more, but to understood is not just me that feeling not enough, like everyone feeling that deep down. This is part of our collective. And then allowing more of the wise part of our heart to say, wait a second, it is really true. Because what we think, it doesn't mean it's a fact. What we believe doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah. I feel I could say that for me, I could see that I'm maybe doing well. Maybe I got a reward at my work. I mean, at the same time, I feel you're like, oh, you're doing so well. I'm like, no, I don't feel it. I don't feel like I'm doing well. And there's always that. What I'm trying to say is that there's this negative bias that we have that I could just kind of feel that I'm always not doing enough. And if you're not careful, like you're saying, you got whisked away. I could be doing great, but in my mind, I feel like I'm not doing great. But that doesn't mean that I'm not doing great or not doing well. If that makes sense, but we don't stay with problems long nowadays. That's another disadvantage. Before everything's fast, everything's like it has to happen today. I think in some ways it has brought a lot of comfort and convenience to our lives, and I'm not saying that's all bad, but at the same time, it also it gets, when it becomes something where the insight is important. Like you're describing, if I don't have the insight that other people may be suffering with this, that I'm just part of this whole system, we're just trying the best we can, not being able to normalize this enoughness can see very tunnel vision for a lot of people. We're like, I have to get to this step before I can actually make it, whatever that make it is, if that makes sense.
I want to add something there as well about the bias of our our way of thinking, because this is what happened, right, with our brain. We are so adaptable as human.
Yeah.
And for example, let's say you move to a new house or a new apartment, and when the first thing you come in, you smell the smell of the room, right?
Yeah.
Smell something, but you stay there for a long time, you don't smell it anymore.
Yeah.
Right, because that's how our brain put priorities. Oh, this is okay. So it put attention to something else. So in a way, things are so easy for us, right? Let's say you play basketball and you play every single day, and you become so good at it, so you don't have to think as you play. You become much better than anybody else. You don't think that's that's great, because it's too easy, and that's the bias that cognitively we have, because everything that we do, our strength, that is other people see ourselves, wow, you're so great, you can do that. We don't see it because it's so easy, it's so normal, like brushing teeth, and therefore we don't notice it. And with this brain that is prioritize self-protection and survival, of course our focus is more things that doesn't work, things that are potentially dangerous, things that are we need to prepare, right? So therefore, of course, it makes sense when you have that kind of wiring, you will think about what's the worst scenario, or oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not good at doing this, even though you're good at doing the other thing. So in a way, I think in order to rewire, more like changing that wiring of the brain, is how can we develop a habit of gratitude, of putting down, what I'm grateful about, of making a habit of patting yourself in the back. Hey, you did a good job today. You overcome this part. Small thing, but you do overcome that. So that way we become more focused. Our brain is more willing, or more able, more sensitive in looking at what we have instead of what we don't have.
Yeah. It's funny. I practice, always gratitude has been helpful. It also has helped me actually to experience, rationally, I feel that I've done well in something. Let's just say that. At the same time, I'm also feeling that I'm not doing well at all. And I could see this at the same time. And it's kind of a weird feeling, because you're like, you're kind of stepping back in the third person, like in the mindfulness setting. You're the observer. And I've gone a little further in the sense of I use Socratic questioning whenever I have a very negative thought or something that comes. So I kind of peel the onion to the point of one of the questions I like in that process is this based on habit or past experience? I think it's very much the fork in the road that we sometimes feel. And the thing about it is not saying what I'm feeling, being frustrated, being sad, being irritated, is not justified. It's just seeing it from a different angle, seeing that this is maybe something that may be frustrating, but not in this way that you're, at least for me, not the way that I'm thinking it is. You know, it's frustrating, but there's a lot of context that I feel. I know in Korean culture, the word is nunchi. Nunchi is when you could read the room kind of really well. I feel when we have generalized blanket statements, we kind of erase our identity in a sense, because we don't even account for why we even get there. I'm not saying make excuses, but knowing where the heading is, knowing where you're facing at that given moment. And I want to share this before we continue. It's from Franz Kafka, The Metamorphosis. It's a sad book. I don't know if you read this, but kind of sad. The person turns to a bug and kind of experiences how the family reacts to it. But this kind of speaks to me because he says, and this is the person transforming to a bug. He says, I can't make you understand. I can't make anyone understand what's happening inside me. I cannot even explain it to myself. It just kind of shows a struggle about the insight that person felt. Obviously, this is a more extreme version, but I feel, at least for me, I felt that wall. I felt that way when I over-explained, when I was struggling at times, and I didn't have answers to myself. So in that sense, there was something there that I still needed to work on, if that makes sense, to get to more insight. Yeah,
I totally agree with you. And you brought something very important, because most of us, and this is because we live in a society that glorify intellect, right? Thinking, I think, therefore I am. Most of us deal with difficult emotions, since childhood, like when we have difficult emotions. Most of us don't know how to deal with emotions. What we tend to do is we get into our head and try to make sense of what we feel through words, through reasons. So, and of course, the reasoning, it's slower than reflect, right? Like our reasoning brain, it's just like the newest addition within our brain development. So when there are so many feelings that we feel, of course, like, to know the reason why is important, to make sense rationally why it's happened. Gives us that sense, like labeling that, right? Naming, I feel anxious, I feel this, is great. But sometimes those feeling doesn't need reasons, because it's like, it's real, it's true in our body. And what we need is presence. What I mean is, we all experience when we are a child that our feeling didn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, cry, we're so hurt, and our parents said, don't cry, there's nothing happening, right? We're afraid, like, what? It doesn't make sense. So we never learn to validate what we feel. But imagine if you have a parent, let's say you're a child, and it said, I'm so scared, there's a ghost over there. And instead of parent who said, there's nothing there, that doesn't make sense, just go doing something else, like go watch TV, right? You have parents who are like, oh, you feel afraid, come sit with me. Come sit with me. And then just by having someone to be with, you co-regulate that feeling of, your fear. And then suddenly it just disappears, right? You don't think about it. It just go away. We need to develop that for ourselves when things are so emotionally difficult and we cannot think about it. Instead of going to the head and trying to make sense, can we be this older wise sisters or brother or parents lovingly, and not trying to solve your problem, but to sit with you? Because in our society where we need, productivity, efficiency, and our value is based on how we can solve problem, right? People get paid a lot of money if they can solve problem
Yeah.
in a workplace. But as human, we sometimes we don't need that. Sometimes what we need is just to sit quietly, be with someone, be with your feeling until it's kind of pass away. We don't have to solve it sometimes. We just need to accept that that's real. That's what we feel, and allow it to move around and to to go away in a way, not to force it, but to exercise self-compassion to parts of us that sometimes we don't like.
Yeah, I think, sitting with the emotions, it's not, I feel we want solutions. We want a quick fix. We want something say, okay, this is the reason why, and these are the steps. And I say this a lot of times in mental health, working with people. I work with adults mostly, but parents get involved. And the idea is mental health is messy, just like emotions are messy. Okay. So, you said it really well. I could be with someone, and it's just a made up scenario, but a lot of times it's happened in different ways. Family members there, mom with the adult. It's like, he's not doing this, or she's not doing this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this. The message, like, all this stuff. And usually just because it wasn't helpful, because there's just a lot of fear. You mentioned fear before. There's just so much fear.
Yeah.
I look at the mom or the dad. I don't think they're bad people at all. I think they're just struggling. So what I usually do sometimes, especially when we're stuck, I have the mom leave or dad leave. I talk to the client or the adult. After that, sometimes I get a moment to be like, hey, can I talk to your mom again? Is that okay with you? Obviously, with his permission or her permission. And I say, you're right. He's not doing this, or she's not doing this. But I said, at the end of the day, I never want that person to never feel he come here. It's interesting. Like, it's not about, like, a lot of these things. Mental health is not only messy or whatever we're struggling. It does take time. I feel sometimes we fool ourselves that it's going to be this one stop. It's an ongoing problem. And I feel like when sometimes that fear can be very disruptive. The person doesn't feel he can or she can. I'm not saying every single scenario, but I make it very important, because if you don't feel heard, like you mentioned when we're kids, we don't, like, your emotions are like pushed aside. We feel very lonely.
Yes.
Because at the core of it, I could be around hundreds of thousands of people, but if I can't be me, if I have to be everything else but me, it can be overwhelming. And also, it is a paraphrase kind of. It's a paraphrase of definition of thinking about Paul Young. He says it, that paraphrasing what he said, but loneliness is the inability to share what's important to you. Simply put, if you're not able to share what's important to you, how connected do you really feel? You're just around people that you want to please because they're more favorable than not when you're not pleasing them. But this goes back to, are you allowed to get better? Are you allowed these steps? So I feel the insight, that moment, like you're describing, when you're just able to sit with your emotions. We're not taught this, because that's not productive. You're not really, but at least I feel a lot of it, at least, and I'll hear your thought, is not, I'm not saying not to strive for excellence. I'm not saying not to do all these things. I'm not trying to say make excuses, because we are all facing things. What I am saying is we need more balance in how we approach these things. We need more balance when we put our boundaries. We need more balance when we say, I am struggling here. I don't know what is going on. And being willing to go through step 1, step 1.2, 1.3, and knowing that it will take the time it takes. If you hear if there's some if it doesn't feel like it's moving forward, only way you'll discover that, I feel, is if you're taking the time to feel what you're feeling, not ignoring it, not avoiding it, and trying to work the problem that way, as opposed to just not and trying to perform better despite it, if that makes sense. I'm not trying to be overwhelmed. Any thoughts?
Yeah, you know what? I think the most heartbreaking thing that we all experience as human being in the world of 8 billion people is isolation and loneliness.
Yeah.
And I felt it. It's kind of epidemic, like everyone
Epidemic, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
experience it. And that's something we cannot solve with the problem that caused it, right?
Yeah.
Like, meaning that if we think we need to be better because we are the one who tell us and criticize us we're bad, we're not worthy. From that place, it's really hard.
Yeah.
Because everything that we do, it starts from our beliefs. Like, for example, if we think we're not enough, that's the belief, and we're not aware that we're thinking about it, then every thought that come up from that is like, oh, I'm not doing this yet, I'm not doing that. Our thinking is always try to prove what we believe.
Yeah.
So the idea is, in that isolation, and I want to bring these things like falling, or maybe depression or anxiety or whatever, feel like we are failing, isn't a breakdown. You are not broken. You are growing and learning. So failing isn't a breakdown. It's a breakthrough into deeper awareness. It's life reorganizing us for a more authentic way of being.
Yeah, I totally agree. Sometimes it's just like certain things in life don't serve you after a while, when you learn that these things are not really helping you. It's just like you said, it's growth. I guess a good example is priority shifts. Like, you have friends in high school, college, or whatever, and they get married, or you have ones that have kids, ones who don't have kids yet, and it's not that you wish them bad. This is just a more lighter way of looking at it. Priority shift. It's not like I have friends that I wish I could see, but like, I have different priorities. Doesn't mean that I wish them bad. It's just my focus is not in line. So in the same way, when we're feeling angry, I always say this a lot of times, doesn't mean that there's, like you said, a breakdown. This means that something's not right. Something's not settling, and yourself is saying this is not right, and that just means that you may need to make some changes. You may need to look at things differently. You may have to take steps. I always say this with mental health. Doesn't mean you can't do things. It just means that you may need to do things differently. So, like, when I wake up in the morning, if I feel like because I've experienced mental health for some time, and I will not wait. If I know a stressful event's going to happen, or something that may be stressful, I try to get ahead of it. If that makes sense. If I know something may be stressful, I try to plan it out, which means that I'll take steps to take care of myself. I try not, the old expression, listen to your body. If you're tired, rest. I do the same thing. If I know I'm going to get stressed or something, I try to get ahead of it. I try to learn the tools that I've been learning through this through my life, and I grow on it. If I make a mistake, that means I learned something. It doesn't mean that I made a mistake and I'm done. It just means because the idea is that our story never really ends until it really ends. If that makes sense. So every single project, every single thing you're trying to do is ongoing. Every single development, ongoing. So you mentioned gratitude. If we are able to look at that in with kindness, we could be like, okay, I may not be where I want to be, but hey, I'm moving towards it. I'm doing what I can. Hey, that didn't work. What can I do differently? Look at it like a knowing, and I feel the only way you could do that effectively, at least for me, is always remembering who you are, your context. Not let it burden you. Not say, oh, I had a hard life. And I'm not saying, I'm not minimizing. It's just, this is where I could see where I'm actually truly am. So I could actually make, I could see it in the right perspective, not trapped in the past of what I wish didn't happen. And again, I'm not minimizing that. I'm just saying, when I think about context, it's a tool to help me more effectively be insightful for where I'm at in any given moment. If that makes sense.
That's very insightful, and I want to add just like from what you're saying, there's a different quality or state of being, which is, and this is, I think, the antidote of that feeling blah, right? Is playfulness and curiosity, and taking it light, like don't take it so seriously. I felt when I hear you and what you said, the way you bounce back, it's coming from that place. What if it just worked differently, more like playfulness, and that's when we come out from survival mode, from fear, right? Things that are fearful, we either fight or run or like freeze. That's the automatic response when we are in fear. But when we change our state, body states, maybe like movement, or breathing, or going out in nature, and bringing awareness of, oh, you know what, instead of like, oh, this is bad, or labeling, going into a habit of negative thinking, can I use my body to move around, play, said, okay, I want to be in a playful state, not through what the external need to be changed first, but to changing my bodily sensation, my bodily response, so that my brain can say, wait a second, I want to do something different here. Let's be playful. Let's be curious. And that's where we can be more creative and access more our resourcefulness than when we stay in the fear mode. And those can be accessed from different perspective, right? Because we have mind, body, and spirit.
I was recently made aware. I was reading up things that I try to introduce to my clients that may be helpful, and it was a Yerkes and Dunson law. And I use this because it says there's some optimal stress level for all of us, and it shifts. So the idea is, if I'm overwhelmed, maybe I need to readjust. But I say this because a lot of times what I find is when we're overwhelmed, then we're like, okay, I'm overwhelmed and do nothing. But no stress is not good either. You kind of find that, you mentioned playful. I kind of think of that. So sometimes I say there's different types of rest for me. So like, obviously I need to sleep, but there's also the creative bit. I always kind of really enjoy my best coping skill is being creative. But on top of that, just if I'm having a hard day at work, I come back, I might be video editing, doing other things, and some people will be like, you did so much, from the third person. Why don't you rest? This is my rest. this is me cathartically moving through my day. So I feel sometimes we may be hit with like bad news health wise, and we may not be able to do so much, but that doesn't mean that there's still not a moderate level of stress. It's like if I hurt my leg and I have to go to PT, doesn't mean I stop walking. I learned to, it's just like everything else. So I do feel all of us have that. It gets harder when you get older and you're not able to do as much, but you still have that moderate stress. You want to be active. You're best when you're at that flow state, optimal state. And I try to be aware of it. I don't always think about it, but sometimes if I hear people like, "Oh, you did so much, you need to just, take a break," I think of myself. I think about, well, I may need that, but not the way you are describing it. I may need to like maybe take some responsibility responsibility off my plate, but doesn't mean I just sit there. I think action, whether it's movement, action, whether it's thinking, creativity, is always helpful. Knowing where that it's okay to be. You could be going through a hard time, and some of the best songs are sad. Let's be honest. So like they work through it that way. Or whether you're doing art. I use creativity because a lot of times I feel that part of our brain doesn't really get a lot of action when we're really struggling. And I feel, at least for me, it helps me work through my emotions. And it can be very helpful, if that makes sense.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
This is the key to freedom. Say it. Most of things in society that we are conditioned is always transactional. You work so you can pay the bill. Yeah. You exercise so you can lose weight, right? It's like you do something so that you get something else. Yeah. And that's and then we adopt it in ourselves. I should do this so that I can be happy. I should also, and that's actually the change, that the prison that confine us with those obligation, with those that should. I should do this. Oh, I should do that, and we become overwhelmed because it should. It's like we have to do it so that we get something else. But what you just said about creativity, about playfulness, it's how can we, like, it's very small effort to free ourselves to do things because we love it, because we enjoy it, because it's.
Yeah.
And that's free us from that reasoning, oh, I should. And as we do it because it's our self-expression, to play, to do because we love it, then it feels like there's a freedom, there's an opening where we can be ourselves.
I think for me, it's been one of the most healing things. Like, I do this podcast, but I actually do a gaming channel too. And the thing is, people like, why would you do the first question they ask me is, do you monetize your gaming channel? Like, not at all. Not at all. Because for me, there's a twofold. Like, part of me, I've been doing sound tech when I was in high school. I just love the idea of putting videos together. However, it's enjoyable. I like to play a lot of games at times and cut videos to kind of express myself. I don't do it like the same way as other people do it. And people like, you spend so much time on that. I love it. Like, for me, it's not taking away, it's adding, So now I do this podcast because I feel a lot of times people don't, I guess, how can you say, it gets pulled under the rug. It's just not talked about because it's uncomfortable. And I feel that I just want to give a platform where people can talk about these things. I remember talking to a young individual about my gaming channel. He's like, you should do this. You got to put the right hashtags and all this stuff. I'm like, I get to it. I might, but I thought, wow, it was almost, he was upset at me for not doing all these things. And I'm like, I enjoy it. Like, I want to get better, but like, for me, that's not the priority. The priority is that it helps me. This is how I see things. If I get better at doing my video editing, that means that it may improve the quality of the videos I do with my podcast. At the same time, I enjoy it. So it's like it doesn't really matter whether I have the best camera or if I have all the tags and everything, even though I do find value of that insight. But when he said it, it was almost like, and I'm not trying to be coy about it, but it felt like it was like I wasn't listening to him, so I was being insulting because I wasn't listening to this individual. And so I do appreciate his enthusiasm, but it felt more fear-based, if that makes sense. It felt like he didn't understand just doing something to do something without being it successful. But for me, I think of a funny story. It's funny I say funny because Barbara Streisand, back in the day, I saw an interview with her. It was Funny Girl. She got in a contract for Funny Girl, and she hated it because there was no, she had to sing it every single day, every single. So I do appreciate when I listened to her interview, just how she said she wished she had the insight about how important creative freedom is, because there's so much people telling, oh, you have a great voice, oh, I could throw a rock, there's so many good singers out there, let me just be honest right now. But at the same time, why am I doing it? Because it helps me, it adds to me, it adds to my day, it doesn't take away. I try to take away things that take away people who are around. Unfortunately, sometimes I see that even in my life when it comes to churches. I go to church, everyone's so fear-based. They're like, oh, like the word, like at the same time, like if I go there and I feel like -10 when I'm leaving, I'm not gonna really, like, I have my faith, but I'm not gonna be subjected by around people who are fear-based. It's not that I have anything harms against them. It's just I'm trying to protect myself in that regard. So sometimes it's not so much saying yes to things, it's also saying no to things. And at least from my experience, when it comes to being okay to fall, being kinder to yourself, showing gratitude, and sometimes showing gratitude is saying no to things that don't serve you. If that makes sense.
I totally resonate with you.
I want to, before we go to a final thoughts, I always give a chance, because it's been a while, just to, I know you're not a new guest, but anything that any updates when it comes to you, anything you want to share, it'll be in the notes for those who are listening. What's going on? The floor is yours.
Yeah, I've been still doing facilitating deep listening practice circle to help people to really listen in a way that make others feel heard, and also allowing you to hear yourself. I don't know, did TEDx talk before or after our first recording? But also you can check my TEDx talk called How Listening Can Change the World, How Deep Listening Can Change the World. So that's on YouTube. Also my book that would help people to go through uncertainty, called The Heart Space, Living with Grace and Ease in an Era of Uncertainty. Yeah, so those are there. I keep doing my mission in helping the world connect through more way of listening in a way that really respect and honor our humanity and one another. I'm writing second book at this point.
Good.
And also at the same time, I go back to school to study counseling psychology.
Okay, that's wonderful. You were saying.
Oh, Robert, one more. If I also give a free chapter of my book, The Heart Space. Chapter 2, where it talks about how our head and intellect, analytical mind works. So you can, your audience can go to my website, christinesamuel.ca, to download the chapter.
Okay. And those who are listening and watching, all the information will be in the notes. So just click the links. You'll be able to see. I encourage you, nowadays, just the ability be present, have real authentic conversations, being kinder to yourself. There's so much different angles, but I feel the real change really happens when you really not focus on everyone else, but focus on you. Because ideas is that you want to better yourself, however that looks like. But if you don't take time with yourself, how would you know what that looks like if you're looking at everything else? So I encourage you. Thank you again, Christine, just sharing that. And I just encourage everyone who's listening to take advantage of just. I just want to be. I told my friend a week ago. He's like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "I'm good. I'm hungry." And it's like hungry. It's like he's like, "What?" But like I do find sometimes, and it's a nice feeling. You obviously can't always do, but you just hungry for knowledge, hungry to know more, hungry to be there for those who I work for, like who are trying to help. It's never for me. It's never like. It's nice to be that state because that means that I'm taking care of myself, but I'm also being there. I'm being accountable. I'm being honest. I just feel I've learned so much in the past few years. Still, just about presence and communicating. Sometimes the best communication is just me staying there. I've been through some most uncomfortable and sad situations working with clients, but also most satisfying ones. The most satisfying because they're actually real. They're visceral. They're not something that I've just made up or some sad song that I'm detached to. It's just being there and not immediately saying answers, just being present. And I just felt that was something I can't describe unless someone actually learns to experience that. Not to get ourselves what our speeches are, the human condition, just being there for another person. Knowing you don't have any answers, knowing that things are really bad, knowing that you're going there just to be with them, just to say, hey, I am here and I see you and we're here. If that makes sense. So.
Yes, and I always say this is part of my work, and I discovered this, that the biggest yearning of every human is to be seen and acknowledged. And with that, I want to thank you, Robert, for your work, for your mission, for your service, for being you as you do all of those. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for continuing. I just feel there's a lot of burnout that can happen when you're trying to do so much to help others. But this month is also about trying to help yourself. You can't help anyone if you're not helping yourself. But final thoughts, I just want to say thank you, Christine. I just always, for me, I never minimize any guest that comes on. I guess my style is just like, we just met at a coffee shop. We're just having a conversation. It's not trying to say that I even say that to my clients. Even if I give you good advice, I don't want you to take it. I want you to think about it. Make it your own. Because if you make it your own, I feel that it does it's better. It's better because it's not about me. It's about you. It's about you trying to find, and I'm just giving answers. I'm just throwing things on the wall. Some things may stick, but at the same time, you're driving that ship. For everyone who's listening, if you have someone who's struggling, always remember that they are the ones that needs to drive that ship. You could be there carrying. If you're struggling with fear or all stuff, I understand. But if it's overwhelming, try to get help. Don't try to do it yourself. The one thing I want to say before I get your final thoughts is this one quote. It says, "These mountains you are carrying, you were only supposed to climb." So try not to add more to your base. It is enough. It's not easy. I'm not minimizing, but at the same time, at least from my experience, the inner journey when it comes to mental health. Now, there are always those outliers, but I would encourage that we promote those who are struggling, not tell them, support them, not just guide them. Let them guide their ship to wherever that looks like, as uncomfortable as that may be. That's my final thought. Any thoughts that you have?
Yeah, I want to circle back to the theme that you have about falling. Falling is not a sign of weakness, but an essential part of being human. In nature, cycles of falling, resting, and rising sustain life. So I'm going to close that.
Yeah, I think wabi sabi, Japanese, the beauty of imperfection. We are all human, so it's just let us be kinder to ourselves. Let us be slower to speak, quick to listen. Let's take our time to be really present. At the end of the day, not all problems will be solved in one day. But I just want to say thank you again, Christine. Thank you for coming on. So,
my pleasure.
With that being said, remember to stay updated with Revive Ministry. ReviveMinistryFL.com is our website, and also on YouTube. This is goodbye from Revive Ministry Podcast, leaving you with this last quote from Carl Jung. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely.
Bye, everyone.